Hello, BookTube. Well, I'm back after that lapse yesterday where I was tired, despite the fact that I'm a smoldering 28-year-old. And that lapse, on my part, brought out the inner mother hen in quite a few of you. I got email after email after email telling me to sleep. Sleep. As if it was the cure-all for everything instead of a dress rehearsal for stone-cold death. But I'm not one to argue with the consensus, so I did sleep. I slept last night for 3 hours and 20 minutes. And that seems to have done the trick. I'm right back to normal. Don't know this ridiculous tiredness anymore. And it bloody well better have done the trick because I don't plan on sleeping again until the weekend. So I thought we'd make up for lost time. I've got a bunch of stuff I want to talk to you about. But first of all, what comes before a mail haul, right? I have a gigantic plastic mailing tub full of stuff. And this time it wasn't a ninja drop-off because it's broad daylight. It's morning. I don't know when I will remember to upload this video. That is such a stupid mistake on my part that I make almost every day, where I make videos early in the day and then I forget to upload them all day long. I think, okay, well, it's made, so it's done. Well, no, nobody knows that it's there. But this is morning. And yet, once again, I've had a ninja mail delivery, so I need to figure out what's going on here. The next person I catch, I need to make sure to tell them, could you pass the word back at headquarters that no matter when you come here, ring the bell, let me know you're here. But anyway, we've got a bunch of stuff here, so we'll just see what we have. If something's squeal-worthy. I imagine there will be squeal-worthy stuff in this mail haul because there's not one, not two, but 3 boxes to finish it out. But the first one is wafer thin. Wafer thin things tend not to make Steve squeal. I have Frida the Bean right here with me to eat my mail. A perfectly adaptable little dog for all conditions. I was tired yesterday, didn't feel like doing anything, and she was okay with that. Okay to just hang out. I wanted to sleep for an ungodly length of time. She was okay with that. She was perfectly happy. She needs a ton of sleep. 18 hours a day. Something like that. So anyway, what do we got here? Oh, fantastic. Okay. This is from the great folks at the New York Review of Books. They do a publishing arm of their own. And this one is Castle Gripsholm by Kurt Tchaikovsky, translated by Michael Hoffman, with a cover illustration by, it looks like, Michael Hoffman's 4-year-old niece. Kind of strange that you would stint at the last mile of getting over the finish line with a cover like this, but that's okay. We don't judge books by their covers, do we, BookTube? Let's see here. In the introduction to his to Castle Gripsholm, Michael Hoffman writes, "Nothing could be further removed from the spirit of this book than self-pity, resignation, and gloom. It has serious depths, but they have been concealed where it is most difficult and distinguished to conceal them, on the surface." Okay, all right. I don't know what that means, and I'm comforted in that fact by the fact that Michael Hoffman has no idea what that means either. That is pure reviewer speak. The surfaces of this brilliant, slender novel, first published in 1931, are vivid and ebullient. Okay. All right. There's a Swedish castle of the book's title. The princess, our sharp and frisky heroine. The springy forests and old wells, unending white nights, and our deliciously ridiculous narrator, one Mr. Peter Tchaikovsky, called Papa by the princess. A writer on holiday who has been told by his publisher that he should write a short romance novel. Okay, all right, so metafiction, alive and well in 1931. I have an odd relationship with the New York Review of Books, with their publishing arm. Actually, with their literary journal as well. I've never written for the New York Review of Books, but I know quite a few people who have, and I've known people like that over the years. And I predicted in my mind, when I heard that they were going to do publishing, take to publishing reprints, I had an idea in my mind of what those reprints would be like, and sure enough, I was right. And to put it gently, there is almost no intersection between the editorial tastes of the New York Review of Books classics line and my taste. There's almost no intersection between those two things. with the result that sometimes some of their books are educations for me. Sometimes some of their books are absolutely wonderful. It almost never happens that I see one of their choices and say, okay, self-evidently good idea. Yes, absolutely. Happened with Life and Fate by Vasily Grossman. Has happened with a couple of other books, but they've done hundreds of books. It almost never happens. Instead, usually what I see is a book like this one that obviously had a champion on their editorial board thinking this is a lost classic. We shall see. I, of course, have never read this book in any language, so we shall see. We'll see what it does for me. Did I mention when it comes out? It's probably the spring somewhere, early May. 140 pages, so I will dig right into it. Won't be hard at all. So let's move on here. Ready for another one, Bean? I was looking at the weather forecast today because the last 2 days have been bitterly cold here in Boston, and the cold has been accentuated by the non-stop 40-mile-an-hour wind out of the north that has been blowing since the third week of December, scraping tarmac, scraping graffiti off walls. And I was looking at the weather forecast, hoping for any kind of relief at all, anything that might allow me and Frida to go out for a longer walk. And it looks like that relief is coming. Still non-stop wind. That there is no prediction of that ever ending. But the temperatures look like they're going to go up. So I still won't be able to wear a hat or gloves or a jacket that's unbuttoned or shoes that aren't laced tight to my feet because those items will be ripped off my body by the wind. But it might not be freezing cold, just freezing you right to the bones of your thighs cold, which would be great since it's April. If so, the Bean and I will go on a long walk, which is something we both enjoy. Oh, okay, what is this? Haven't we seen this already? I think we saw this already. This is by Susan Dunn. This is a blueprint for war, FDR and the 100 years that mobilized America, the 100 days that mobilized America. I could swear that this has already been out, hasn't it? This is the second time we're seeing this. Yeah, 2018. This is the paperback of A Blueprint for War, which I never got around to reviewing, I don't think. Yeah, in the cold winter months that followed Franklin Roosevelt's election in November of 1940 to an unprecedented third term in the White House, unprecedented up until that point. Wait just a little while, and that president will be broken in American history. He confronted a worldwide military and moral catastrophe. Almost all of European democracies had fallen under the ruthless onslaught of the Nazis' army and air force. Great Britain stood alone, a fragile bastion between Germany and American immersion in the war. Okay, and I remember we saw this, but it was 1,000 videos ago. And this is a book essentially about the armoring of America. And the paperback comes out in late April. I have yet to figure out on Open Letters Review what to do with paperback releases. I think they deserve some extra notice, maybe a roundup feature of some kind, or much shorter reviews, something like that. But I can't, on Open Letters Review, I want to start noticing paperback reprints, so I'll have to figure out a way to do that. All right, let's move on here. 2 reprints to start off the mail haul. So what is this next one? Okay. All right. This is due in April. This is a finished copy from Harvard University Press by Stephanie McCurry. Women's War. It's a kind of a nice looking hardcover there. Fighting and Surviving the American Civil War. This book challenges the idea that women are outside of war through a trio of dramatic stories revealing women's transformative role in the American Civil War. This book focuses on 3 female subjects: a Confederate female trader who challenges the meaning of the concept of enemy, an emancipated slave woman who accompanies Union soldiers and were only recognized as black soldiers' wives and not individuals, and the gendered experience of Reconstruction seen through the struggles to survive of a defeated Confederate woman. Okay, all right. So I assume the author is an academic of some kind or other. Let's see here. The author of Confederate Reckoning, a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize and winner of the Frederick Douglass Prize, and many other prizes. Wow, the Confederate Reckoning won a lot of awards. And also Master of Small Worlds, which won the John Hope Franklin Prize and 4 other awards. So she's written 2 books that have received multiple awards each. She's also received a Guggenheim Fellowship, and she is the R. Gordon Hoxie Professor of History in the honor of Dwight D. Eisenhower at Columbia University. And she grew up, well, her bio note ends with the line, she grew up in Belfast, Ireland during the Troubles. Wow, okay. That's not germane to anything she's writing about, except maybe Civil War, but quite the line to end your bio note on. All right, fantastic. So Civil War history, World War II history, and a novel by an author about a novel by an author about a novel by an author. so let's see. Oh, okay. Boy, oh boy, you never know what you're going to get on this channel in terms of mail. You really don't. This is Joe Dunkley. This is Our Universe, an astronomer's guide. Popular astronomy. For many years now, we have known the story of the solar system and of Earth's place in it. We have mapped out the stars in the night sky and have known that we live in a disk of stars that makes up the Milky Way galaxy. But in the past few decades, huge steps have been taken in the field of astronomy, steps which have led us to venture even further across space and time, with telescopes that let us see in ever greater detail those distant and exotic parts of the universe that lie far beyond our solar system's planets, and even give us a glimpse of the first moments of the universe. Because keep in mind, those telescopes show us the past. They don't show us the universe. They show us the past of the universe. Yet these extraordinary advances in our understanding of the wider universe have led us to even greater mysteries. What happened in the first moments after the Big Bang? What are the mysterious dark parts of the universe? Is space infinite? Is there life elsewhere? And what happens in those parts of space where conditions are so intense that our laws of physics break down? Okay, and this is just a tour, a Cook's tour of popular astronomy. Fantastic. It's got blurbs by Robert Kirshner, by Martin Ruse, by Andries Wolf, and the author is a professor of physics and astrophysical sciences at Princeton University. Fantastic. Okay, I'm on board. I love it. The only problem is if it's late. Is it late getting to me? Harvard University Press is just in general sometimes late getting to me. No, this is the first week in April. Great. Fantastic. Okay. Popular astronomy. All right. A great variety so far, but I confess, no Steve books. So let's keep going in the hope of getting one of those. A Steve book of some kind, a biography maybe, or a Boston book would be nice. Oh, come on, Dean. Oh, you're not even going to jump? Your fans want to see you. Here, I'll hold her up at the end of the video so you can see her face clear as well. She's not wanting to jump anymore. Oh my. Okay. All right. Okay, this next one is both a biography and a Boston book. This is the finished copy of Stephen Budiansky's biography of Oliver Wendell Holmes. Lovely. Fantastic. We saw the advanced copy of this, and I am reviewing it. Let's see, with the pub sheet, this comes out in May. I'll be reviewing it in May. At a time when the Supreme Court is at the center of a storm of political divisiveness and controversy, the life and thought of one of its most famous justices offers an enduring lesson in how the law can and must rise above partisan rifts to solve the nation's pressing problems. Drawing on thousands of never-before-published personal letters, diaries, and private records. Okay. All right. Oliver Wendell Holmes has had many biographies. Never before published is not never before consulted. These things have... There is nothing new to consult about Oliver Wendell Holmes. This book is the definitive portrait of the legendary justice who secured freedom of speech in America, and, combining a towering intellect with tough-minded realism, forged on the bloody battlefields of the Civil War, brought common sense, moral courage, and unshakable integrity to the highest court. Definitive portrait might be going a little far. This figure has had incredible biographies written, just incredible. But even so, let's see. As a twice-wounded Union veteran, barely escaping death when a musket ball tore through his chest and neck at the Battle of Ball's Bluff and Antietam, Oliver Wendell Holmes faced life ever after with unremitting scorn for political dogma and formulaic solutions of all kinds. A man, he said, should do just his damnedest without believing that the cosmos would collapse if he failed. One should have the same courage for failure that many have for death. Throughout his long life, he did just that, revolutionizing legal scholarship in America and writing almost 1,000 decisions for the High Court with a directness and eloquence that remain fresh and vital today. That is absolutely true. I am, I admit, a bit of a Supreme Court junkie. I have read tons and tons, mountains of decisions and obiter dicta, and love it all. I read decisions from the Supreme Court, which most Americans don't even know it affects their lives. And in the eloquence of the the eloquence of the period, the eloquence of the court in the 20s and teens is outstanding. It really is. Even though the eloquence remains in one form or another, almost up to the present day, it's outstanding at Holmes's the high point of Holmes's judicial career. Throughout his long life, what am I going here? In a series of famous dissenting opinions whose intellectual force would time and again prove decisive in convincing later courts to reverse themselves and adopt his views, Holmes upheld free speech for pacifists and anarchists, denounced the politically biased decisions of the court's conservative majority, and struck down laws protecting the rights of workers and consumers, and boldly took a stand against the convictions of African Americans in trials threatened by Southern lynch mobs. With many of these battles now being joined anew amid the deep divisions between the court's liberals and conservatives, and between, quote, activist and, quote, originalist interpretations of the Constitution, Holmes's insights and nonpartisan wisdom have taken on a renewed importance to make the story Budiansky tells of urgent relevance to today's controversies. Okay. All right, so this comes out in late May. You all know, well, some of you, those of you who know anything about the American Supreme Court will know the name that I have in mind. Oliver Wendell Holmes shared the Supreme Court with a particular Chief Justice. And of course, that's on my mind. He and William Howard Taft did not see eye to eye on most things. But when Taft was sickening, when he was dying, when he had to leave his post, the justices thought that a letter written to him to buck him up and to tell him that he was missed would be a diplomatic gesture. Even his enemies on the court agreed with that. And Holmes wrote the letter, and it is brilliant. It is short, it is a paragraph, and it's beautiful. And it had the desired effect, not just on Taft, but on his whole family. So there was a collegiality there that I don't think is missing today. I worry about descriptions like that about partisan judges. I think once you get on the bench with a job you can't be removed from, you're going to be there for the rest of your life, and you're beholden to no one. I think even candidates who are very partisan in lobbying presidents to get that job don't feel beholden once they have it. But anyway, I can't wait to write about it. I've never written about Oliver Wendell Holmes for a large Boston audience, and I believe I will be doing that with this book, so that's wonderful. All right, so a Steve book at last. Now we'll go on to the cardboard. We have one of these big cardboard things and then boxes. So what will this be? Oh my! Oh, we saw this already. Oh great. Okay, this is an April release. This is a. Okay, I don't need that. This is the finished copy of Daniel Suarez's Delta 5. Look at that cover. Isn't that awesome? There are the stars above. Best-selling author, technologist, and TED speaker Daniel Suarez has been praised as, quote, a legitimate heir to Michael Crichton, by Publishers Weekly, who ought to know better, and, quote, the Tom Clancy of cybersecurity. What does that mean? What does the Tom Clancy of cybersecurity mean, anyway? A favorite among book critics and tech community alike, Suarez has presented his ideas on the future of technology at NASA Ames, Google, and Microsoft, among others. And John Robb, the futurist and author of Brave New War, praises him as the best author of tech fiction since Bruce Sterling and Neil Stephenson. Isn't Neil Stephenson still working? In this breathtaking new book, which is due in late April, Suarez takes readers on a gripping voyage into deep space with a team of adventurers on an asteroid mining mission, a project funded by private investors and commissioned by a mysterious tech billionaire, a theme at the top of the public imagination in the age of SpaceX and Elon Musk. What cave diver James Tighe receives, when he receives an invitation to billionaire Nathan Joyce's private island, he thinks it must be a mistake. But Tighe's unique skill set makes him a prime candidate for Joyce's high-risk venture to mine a near-Earth asteroid, with the goal of kickstarting an entire off-world economy. The potential rewards and personal risks are staggering, but the competition is fierce and the stakes couldn't be higher. As the second age of exploration begins, Tighe and his fellow adventurers intend to alter the trajectory of human civilization or die trying. Okay. The pub sheet doesn't explicitly say so, but I'm assuming that that at the peak of this, something goes horribly wrong. We shall see. Because I have this. I have the advanced copy of this. I haven't got to it yet, even though it's an April book. And even though I'm reading all over the map, I'm reading all over the summer. It's patchwork. I'm not reading straightforward. I'm reading patchwork. So I'll do an April book, and then I'll do an August book, then I'll come back and do another April book. It's not very efficient, so I should probably change that in April now that April has started. All right, so let's commence the barrage of the boxes. Oh, okay. Well, this first one didn't need to be in a box. It's just a tiny little thing. It's just a tiny little thing. This is the finished copy of something we've seen already. This is by Michael Ruse, and it's The Meaning of Life. A meaning to life. A meaning to life. There's a bird taking off on the cover. Due in April. Do you ever ponder the ultimate question? Do our lives have any meaning? Or do we come from an eternity of oblivion, try to lead worthwhile lives, and then return to an eternity of oblivion with the understanding that there is no meaning? No. No. We come from an eternity of oblivion. We try to lead worthwhile lives. Then we return to an eternity of oblivion, having made whatever meaning we can. Not with the understanding that there is no meaning. The understanding that there is no meaning is a religious idea. It means, is there any, when religious people ask that, they are asking, is there any meaning that will last forever, with a capital F? There is no meaning that will last forever, with a capital F. None. Closest you will have is if you're a popular author. That is the closest that you get to immortality if you're a human. But even that is limited and partial, and you're not around to enjoy it. So the implication smuggled in on that question, that with the understanding that there is no meaning, implies that if there isn't an eternal meaning, if there's just the meaning that you give your life by, what was it? Try to lead a worthwhile life, that gives your life meaning. To yourself and others, that does. And that's meaning enough. And that's all there is. So it's lucky that that's meaning enough. But to ask with the understanding that there is no meaning is to smuggle in the idea that meaning must be eternal. And that's a religious idea. It's ridiculous. In the past, scholars and theologians turned to religion for our answer. Life has meaning because humans were made in the image of a good God. In the 19th century, however, Charles Darwin's theory of evolution changed everything, and the human organism was seen to be more machine than spirit. Was it really? Indeed. Ever since, with the rise of science and the decline of religious belief, there has been a growing interest and growing doubt about whether human life really does have meaning. If it does, where might we find it? Oh, God. Whether human life has meaning. So what? Built in? Inherent in the DNA? No, that is a religious idea. Not only that does that underscore the myth of us being created in some sort of in Jupiter's own image, but it also underscores the bigotry of saying that we are, of course, the only ones, the only animals on Earth who have a meaning with a capital M to our life. And therefore, the animals that don't have such a meaning are ours to do with as we please. All of that is religious. All of that is specifically the Old Testament. So I have the advanced copy of this thing, and I haven't read it. But Michael Ruse is going to have to dance mighty carefully here. Your life has the meaning that you give it, and that's all. It doesn't have any other meaning. It doesn't have any built-in meaning, or any larger meaning, or any eternal meaning. It doesn't have any of those things. That's crazy. That's when you're walking along a creek out in the field, and you see a vole slip into the water because your passage has alarmed him. Does it even cross your mind to wonder what the meaning with a capital M in italics of that vole's life is? Of course it doesn't. You automatically assume, as rightfully you should, that whatever meaning that little vole's life has is very localized. It's contained in that vole's world, that vole's offspring. that involves investigations of the world around him to the limited extent that he can investigate. Nothing more than that. You look at another animal, you don't ask what eternal meaning their life has. But it's only when you look at your own species of animal that you're suddenly wondering, oh, well, is this all there is? Surely I must resonate in eternity. Absurd. Absolutely absurd. Anyway, you didn't come here to hear me rant. Let's move on to the next one. This next one has a satisfying heft to it. It could be a nice big thing. It is a nice big thing. Oh my. Oh, very nice. Okay. Very nice. This is a finished copy of something that I have read. I loved it. And here it is. No, Bean, that's going to make an enormous amount of noise. I will burn off your excess energy, little girl. Don't you doubt it. I'm just not with you banging boxes around. Okay, this is a late April release. This is Ian Kershaw. This is The Global Age, Europe, 1950 to 2017. This is the finished copy from Penguin of the latest in, I think, the Penguin History of Europe. The Penguin History of Europe. This is by the author of a really good book called To Hell and Back. This is just Ian Kershaw writing the history of the 20th century. This is the second volume of him writing the history of the 20th century. I guess the long 20th century, I would say that the stopping point for this book and any other, it's very rare that historical events give you a stopping point, a concrete stopping point. And it's even rarer that that stopping point happens within spitting distance of an actual calendar stopping point. If history actually goes to the bother of giving you such a stopping point as the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001, you should take it. You should take it. The 21st century began that morning. And the 20th century ended that morning. So better to call it that way than to limp it on into 2017. But I would understand maybe Kershaw is going to argue that the long-term after effects of that day extend. That's a bogus argument. The long-term arguments, the after effects of that day are going to last throughout the whole of the century, just like the long-term after effects of the assassination of Franz Ferdinand lasted throughout a century. No, I don't think there's any argument to be made that a genuine era change happened that morning. But it could also be that the 2017 thing is meant to encompass the election of Donald Trump and therefore, boost this book's sales. That also could be part of the reason. Still, I'm glad to have it in finished copy. I loved it. I love the way this author writes. In 1950, Europe was reawakening from the dark years of the worst war in history, described by the author in his previous book, To Hell and Back. Though the post-war years brought peace and relative prosperity to most of Europe, the inhumanity of the recent past would cast a deep shadow over the continent throughout subsequent decades. Europe was now a divided continent, living under nuclear threat in a period intermittently fraught with anxiety. And that's what this book is. This is the history of our times. Those of you who are watching, even those who are very old, this is the history of our times. This is anything else. His previous book and all the other books in the Penguin series were works of history, with history sort of underscored as a textbook subject. This is what we lived through. And as with anything, this book is huge. Does it tell me? No, the pub sheet doesn't tell me. It's about 1,000 pages long. Oh no, it's 600 pages long, 650 pages long. But even so, even in a work of that size, you lived through this period, you're going to feel that there are important things being left out or minimized. I did, but anybody's going to, depending on how you live through those years. But boy, oh boy, do I recommend this. Get your library to get it for you. Or if you've got the $40, I think this is expensive. Yeah, this is $40. $40 hardcover. Just buy it because this is your lifetime, or the lifetime of your immediate relatives, your parents' life, not even your grandparents, and that makes it, to see a historian take a sort of big step back, try and take a global view, a detached view of that period, that makes it all the more fascinating. I often say, when I'm championing reading history, I say the more you know about it, the more personal it will feel to you, until, let's say you become really familiar with the personalities of Republican Rome at its end. So Julius Caesar, Cicero, all that sort of, that group of people. Let's say you become really familiar with them from reading book after book after book on that period. I always say on this channel that if you do that, then when a new book on that period comes out, you will feel like you are getting together with old friends. But it's an imaginative jump every time that I say it, except for this book. This book, I mean, quite a few of you belong to the 21st century. You were born around then, and it's all you know. But quite a few other people who are watching this channel belong to the 20th century. And this is your century right here. This is that part of it. I have almost no viewers, I think, that remember the war, World War II. I think I have almost no viewers who remember that. Almost fewer and fewer people in the world remember it. It is slipping into history. It has been for 10 years now. And this is about the aftermath. This is about the time period that your parents will remember, or perhaps a booktuber here and there will remember. Fantastic. All right. Well, that box was a Steve book. And then we have the next, this is the final box and the final book in the mail haul. So let's see what this is. Something big. A finished copy maybe of something big. That would be nice. Oh, okay, we end with 2 Steve books. We end with a copious amount of squealing. We have come a long way from a hoity-toity New York Review of Books reprint designed exclusively to be the book you're talking about at a New York cocktail party when you finally get someone. When you finally say, oh, you've never heard of? Fill in the blank. Oh, let me tell you about it. The unspoken addendum being, boy, your literary education really was lacking, wasn't it? When you'd only heard about it a month before, when you were talking about to somebody who's working at the New York Review of Books. It isn't a standard thing. The only reason that the book exists is to play gotcha at a literary party. Oh, you've never heard of it? Oh, you've never read it? Huh. We've come a long way from a book like that. God forbid they reprint Washington Irving to this. This is fantastic. Okay, so this is another 600-page book. We saw it before. I had no idea that the finished copy would look this beautiful. No idea. I read the book. The book is amazing. It is amazingly good. But I had no idea. The finished copy is a work of art. This is amazing. This is Tim McIntosh-Smith's book, Arabs. Look at that. That is amazing. This is a comprehensive history of Arab peoples and tribes that explores the role of language as a cultural touchstone. This kaleidoscopic book covers almost 3,000 years of Arab history. The author begins his narrative more than 1,000 years before Muhammad and focuses on how Arabic, both spoken and written, has functioned as a vital source of shared cultural identity over the millennia. And this is, as you might be able to guess from that pub sheet, there's a good deal of literary stuff in this book. That was a surprising thread running through it for me. Tim McIntosh-Smith is an eminent Arabist, translator and traveler whose previous publications include Travels with a Tangerine, Yemen, and Landfalls. In 2011, he was named by Newsweek as one of the 12 finest travel writers of the past 100 years. He has lived in the Arab world for over 3 decades and is a fellow of the Royal Asiatic Society and a senior fellow of the Library of Arabic Literature. And this is his masterpiece. And now I have the finished copy. Fantastic. So this is a late April book as well. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. All right, so that is our mail for today. We end with 2 classic Steve books. Wonderful. So we have Arabs in the finished copy, and we have The Global Age in the finished copy. Then we have Delta 5 by Daniel Suarez. Let's go mine some asteroids. We have a new biography of Oliver Wendell Holmes. We have a new popular history of astronomy from its earliest days to the present, and also exploring questions that exist today about exoplanets and dark matter and whatnot. We have Women's War, about women in the Civil War, 3 case studies. We have A Blueprint for War, the paperback of a study of World War II armament, the miracle of United States armament in World War II. We have A Meaning to Life by Michael Ruse. And we have Castle Gripsholm by Kurt Tchaikovsky. What, you've never heard of it? Huh. So there you go. That is our mail. I don't know if there'll be more mail today, but that's plenty for now. Thank you, BookTube.